The city of Lagos has expanded over the years, posing serious challenges for the future. This is why the forthcoming Lagos Economic Summit, Ehingbetti 2002, has as its theme, Lagos, the megacity and the challenges of economic development. The summit, which will take place at Akodo Tourist Resort between the 24th and 25th of December 2002, would be declared open by His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Executive Governor of Lagos State. Many distinguished personalities are expected to present papers at the summit. Come, let us rub minds and forge ahead to ensure a better life for all and make Lagos State truly a center of excellence. For details, contact Lagos State Ministry of Economic Planning and Budget, Alausa Ikeja. The city of Lagos has expanded over the years, posing serious challenges for the future. This is why the forthcoming Lagos Economic Summit, Ehingbetti 2002, has as its theme, Lagos, the megacity and the challenges of economic development. The summit, which will take place at Akodo Tourist Resort between the 24th and 25th of December 2002, will be declared open by His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Executive Governor of Lagos State. Many distinguished personalities are expected to present papers at the summit. Come, let us rub minds and forge ahead to ensure a better life for all and make Lagos State truly a center of excellence. For details, contact Lagos State Ministry of Economic Planning and Budget, Alausa Ikeja. The city of Lagos has expanded over the years, posing serious challenges for the future. This is why the forthcoming Lagos Economic Summit, Ehingbetti 2002, has as its theme, Lagos, the megacity and the challenges of economic development. The summit, which will take place at Akodo Tourist Resort between the 24th and 25th of December 2002, would be declared open by His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Executive Governor of Lagos State. Many distinguished personalities are expected to present papers at the summit. Come, let us rub minds and forge ahead to ensure a better life for all and make Lagos State truly a center of excellence. For details, contact Lagos State Ministry of Economic Planning and Budget, Alausa Ikeja.
Is dedicated to the Lagos State government, corporate and private sectors, as well as other stakeholders in their bid to achieve accelerated economic growth and sustainable urban development. It is quite obvious that Lagos' urban situation requires intervention in transportation, effective traffic management, orderly physically planning and road development, education, healthcare and population control, to mention just a few. One noticeable peculiarity of Lagos is our urban status. According to statistics, Lagos is a highly urbanized state, with over 75% of our current 50 million inhabitants living in metropolitan Lagos. Precisely, the state's population continues to increase at a rate higher than any state in Nigeria, a situation which poses great challenges to government. The concentration of industrial and commercial activities which lure individuals in search of lucrative jobs to the state expose Lagos to grave urban crisis characterized by decaying infrastructure, widespread poverty, security threats, emergence of slums, and environmental degradation. It is estimated that Lagos will be the third most populous global city, with a projected population of 24.5 million by the year 2015, and a population density of over 4,193 persons per square kilometer. Having realized this, the state government mapped out strategies to invest substantially in socio-economic infrastructure and to reposition the state through active collaboration of all stakeholders. To this end, the first institutionalized economic forum, tagged Ehingbetti Economic Summit, was organized as a collaborative effort between the state government and business club Ikeja. The first summit was held from May 23 to 24, 2000, with the theme, Accelerating Economic Growth through Private Sector Partnership in Infrastructural Development. Between June 10 to June 12, 2001, the second edition of the summit was organized with the theme, Improving Urban Development, Economic Growth, and Social Responsibility through Effective Partnership. One vital question that comes to mind is what actually is the goal and objectives of this summit. First, the summit is aimed to strengthen existing public-private partnership for development, to harmonize governments, community groups and private sectors on strategies for Lagos urban management, to integrate civil society groups into development plans, programs and projects, and lastly, to articulate a special development status for Lagos State. Little wonder then that the third Lagos State Economic Summit was dedicated to core issues in urban governance and the strengthening of a partnership for managing Lagos State, the most urbanized state in Nigeria. The choice of this year's theme could not have been better than Lagos Megacity and Challenges of Economic Development.
Lagos State, as you all are aware, remains the industrial and commercial nerve center of Nigeria. Indeed, Lagos, apart from being the business capital of Lagos State, touches the life of almost every Nigerian in one way or the other. The state population has continued to increase over the recent years, growing at a rate higher than that of any other state in our country. It is therefore very obvious that the choice of the theme of this year's summit, Lagos Megacity and the Challenges of Economic Development, is not only timely but also appropriate and will afford all participants from both the private and public sectors the opportunity to focus discussion on issues such as infrastructural deficiencies, growing insecurity concerns, reducing the cost of doing business in Lagos State, especially in the areas of taxes and multiple levies on the private sector, breaking the bureaucratic bottlenecks, making government policies consistent, and the encouragement of a better government and private sector relationship. Poverty alleviation will also be discussed, and emphasis will be placed on transparency, accountability, and general fiscal discipline. Nigeria. I must therefore at this point commend the Lagos State government for sustaining dialogue with the private sector through the economic summit since the first summit was initiated. I will also continue to encourage both sectors for better dialogue in all areas, as we must recognize the interdependency of the sectors. The private sector needs a strong, highly committed and supportive public sector to survive. Equally, the public sector requires the support and the continued unhindered services of the private sector to be able to deliver the greatest good to the greatest number of our citizens.
Before commencement of activities at the just concluded Ehingbetti 2002, which was held between 24th and 25th of September, the Honorable Commissioner for Budget Olayemi Kadoso intimated participants with the successful implementation of 15 out of 17 resolutions reached at the year 2001 summit.
Not that the theme of the Ehingbetti 2001 summit last year was improving urban development, economic growth, and social responsibility through effective partnership. We had work groups that essentially were divided between urban administration and infrastructure development, health and environment, water and sanitation, human capital development and job creation, SMEs and the challenges of urban poverty, private sector and social responsibility, and privatization and performance improvement. In other words, we had 7 work groups last year. The resolutions was summarized into a 17-point communique which was widely advertised in the press, and to date we're happy to say that we have been able to implement 15 of the 17 resolutions. I also want to advise and to assure that the resolutions were really strictly integrated as policy tools for the year 2002 budget.
In the past 3 years, it would not have been out of point to state that the annual Ehingbetti Summit is a clear demonstration of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration's commitment to inclusive governance. Precisely, this summit, coming on the threshold of a democratic transition and the early years of the urban millennium, affords stakeholders the opportunity of reviewing existing efforts and expanding the frontiers of collaboration for sustainable human and economic development.
The world today is in the urban millennium, in which about 1.3 billion people live in cities, and Lagos State, being one of the 19 mega cities, has over 14 million population. This urban phenomenon presents tremendous challenges and opportunities on economic development and governance. Indeed, the State of the World Cities report by Habitat 2001 indicates a strong correlation between city and human development. A look at our neighborhood will reveal a sordid picture of widespread poverty, which poses a great threat to humanity, global peace, and stability. For Africa, where over 40% of its 730 million people live in abject poverty, I quote ADB of the report of 1999, between 20 and 40 million urban households worldwide are homeless. The situation has grave implications on our continent's socio-political stability, sustainable environment, human and economic development.
For instance, due to ever-increasing population of Lagos State, the demand for water is expected to increase at least 6 times from its present 208 million liters per day to more than 1,200 million in the year 2025. Statistics show that the state would require over $2 billion to develop the network and meet the demand for water, and about 79 billion naira annually for the next 10 years on road development.
Lagos, with a population of close to 15 million with a budget of less than US 500 million US dollars, in spite of the fact that the budget size has gone up several fold since this administration, can be contrasted to a city like Johannesburg, whose population is only 2.5 million and has a budget size of 1.2 billion US dollars. Lagos State of 15 million is only 500 million of US dollars. In other words, Johannesburg has about 240% of our resources to service about only 16% of our population. Similarly, Washington DC, with a population of only 65,000 people and a budget size, has a budget size of 4 billion US dollars. This implies that Washington DC has over 800% of our resources to service less than 0.5% of its population. It is equally disheartening to know that this resource inadequacy, which is resulting in aggravated poverty, is fast changing our choice neighborhoods. Victoria Island, Apapa, and Ikoyi have been getting into blighted eyebrow areas. Official statistics reveal that over 65% of Lagosians live below the poverty line in a sprawling 2,600 urban conurbations with a population density of over 4,193 persons per square kilometer on a wetland area, of which 22% is water. This is a precarious situation when cognizance is taken of the fact that about 1 billion people live in shanties and slums across the world, and these are hotbed of social upheavals. It is in response to this urban millennium challenge that our administration adopted as its policy thrust poverty alleviation and sustainable economic growth.
Since inception, the overriding policy thrust of Tinubu's administration centers on poverty alleviation and sustainable economic growth. Over the years, government recognizes that in order to be effective, there must be absolute and total commitment to good governance
and accountability. To this end, we have sought and applied the world-renowned Oracle and Enterprise Resource Management, the ERM, software and database solution in support of e-governance design to improve accountability in government activities, enhance efficiency and effective delivery of services, while also using scarce public resources in providing an enabling environment. Indeed, the year 2003 budget is being prepared on the Oracle-based information system, while the accounts of the state are already being prepared using the same system. I am very happy and proud to announce to you that we are able to present and update our account and the system, the financial position of this government, which has never been produced since 1995 year to date. The level of computerization is readily seen from the last Ehingbetti, which was put on CD. I believe this one is going again to the same record. Good governance also requires commitment, consistent and sound macroeconomic policy.
However, as we step into the new millennium, the challenges of Africa's development is becoming more daunting by the day. The welfare and well-being of the continent is threatened by the destructive and unsettling effects of wars, insecurity, and armed conflicts. Above all this, there is yet another factor that is equally disturbing: This is the phenomenon of urbanization and growth of mega cities. This phenomenon formed the base of a paper delivered by Ehingbetti on behalf of Anna Kajumolo Tibaijuka, the Executive Director of United Nations Habitat. The paper recognized that the movement of people from rural to urban environments is continuing in Africa due to socio-economic, political, and demographic forces.
The growth of megacities imposes significant short and long-term costs, which a few governments actually are yet willing or able to consider. In Africa, up to 60% of urban inhabitants live in impoverished slums and squatter settlements, I think, with little or no access to adequate water, sanitation, refuse collection, with the attendant risk of low environmental quality, poor human health. Metropolitan and urban centers in Africa are contending with rising homelessness, fraud, with a high social cost and exclusion. We have already seen the consequences of the precarious density at which people live in Lagos, Excellency.
The question is, what are the challenges and what to do to reduce and improve on the consequences of the precarious density of which people live in Lagos State?
There is indeed, ladies and gentlemen, a very strong link between urbanization and national level economic growth and development. Urban areas as a share of total national population is about 70% in countries with a high developed economy and those with a high human development index. As stressed by the last World Urban Summit that was held in Nairobi, economic growth is unsatisfactory when it is accompanied by continuing or increased inequity and poverty, not least because of low level of education and health care providing or social disruption have an adverse effect on economic development. One of the dilemmas that is that policy designed to encourage investment and achieve economic growth do not necessarily result in economic opportunities accessible to the poor and may even exacerbate poverty when expanding the economy overall. Lagos alone accounts for nearly 60% of gross domestic product of Nigeria and over 65% of national investment. But to what extent are the poor in Lagos are integrated part of this proportion? Of course, when the captain of industries are not paying their taxes, you cannot redistribute this wealth. And this is the problem. With regard to urban environmental management, urban production often have adverse environmental impact, the full economy and social cost of which are inequally distributed and often ignored. This is a strong concern, particularly because of the strong link between poverty and environment. In urban areas, the poor are most severely affected by inadequate urban environment services, particularly the lack of sanitation, drainage, waste collection, adequate supply of drinking water, safety and security, and often life and work in hazardous locations.
Meanwhile, Ehingbetti further reiterated that the elements that makes a megacity function as a unified system are transport, energy, waste management, water supply, sanitation, security, telecommunication, and even labor flow. The absence of this sector instead can make or mar the city's attraction to inflow of external resources.
I agree with him fully because he gave examples of other parts of the world where the population pressure has been tremendous. But of all the examples he gave, the worst case scenario is Lagos State, because in those other areas they have a more solid economy which can absorb some of these increase in the population in the mega cities. Whereas in Lagos State, the resources are not there. Much of the funds that should come to Lagos State government have not come, in the sense that a state like Kano State has more local governments than Lagos State, and to that extent, what they get from the federal government, whereas the population in Lagos State is not less than 15 million. So the resources don't match the rate of population growth within the city. And it's quite instructive that when you talk of population pressure, the rate of growth of the influx of new, what do we call them, new residents in Lagos State along the Lekki area is 16%. That's the highest in the world.
We think because urbanization is large population. Large population is large market. So therefore businesses should be able to grow. But that is if we are producing. But if we are in a society like we are currently, where everything is being imported and everybody is just buying imported goods and therefore creating jobs in other countries, then it means it becomes negative. And that means our people will not have jobs, and then you have more criminals.
On the first day of the summit, participants broke into 5 discussion groups. The various groups included infrastructural development for social services, environmental management and emergency operations, urban informal sector and industrial development, revenue mobilization and sustainable development, and socio-cultural development, the need for change. At the end of this, the summit report presentation was made.
They communicate, they will be informed, and by God's grace this time next year, we will be able to see if we are traveling in the right direction to actually achieve what we have planned and decided in the various work groups as a result of the discussions we have. The private sector to be encouraged in the development of parks and depots for loading and offloading, and that there should be relocation of interstate bus terminals to urban outskirts. I will avoid elaborating a lot on these resolutions because they must have been discussed exhaustively in the various groups.
Now, it is quite clear that as the state moves towards the 20 million population flux, it becomes necessary that the focus of urban governance and the fiscal structure of the state needs to be reformed.
From what had transpired all through this particular summit, and from the integration that I observed between the government, that is representing the public sector, and the private sector, it's been very, very encouraging, very, very complimentary, and it gives one hope that we are on the right track. In actual fact, a colleague of mine from the private sector last night was also saying the same thing, expressing the same sentiments about the laudable initiative that this Lagos State government has taken in terms of instituting this annual economic summit tagged Ehingbetti. It started with the Ehingbetti 2000, and then we had the 2001, and now the 2002.
And looking at how people have been so committed and devoted, and bear in mind the fact that there are some private sector people who have come 3 times to this summit. Okay, they came to the first, they came to the second, and they are here again today. They have other things to do. They've left those things and decided it was worth their while coming here. How has it impacted the socio-economic life of Lagos State? When we talk about government, for government to be effective, it has to be good. It has to implement good policies. It has to implement good programs. The end result in terms of saying, you had a summit today, do you have 10 buildings to show for it? It doesn't work that way. The summit is part of a process that leads to your having 10 buildings, or 2 hospitals, or schools cited in certain places. Because what you are doing at the summit is you are getting a cross-section of opinions as to how governance should be effected.